welcome to another episode of Get Up 10 podcast. This is your host, Ginger, and we are doing week two or number two or episode two. I don't know. We're doing our second review for the series of my guy friends. So I'm super excited to bring to you guys Joe Providence, Joe does logos, Joe, I don't even know, he has so many nicknames, but I'm really excited to get into this interview with him. I love the perspective that he brings. I love his analogies. I just love how I really feel like his story and the way he lives his life just encapsulates living life to the fullest. And um, even though we go through things, not letting them hold us back. And so I don't want to hold you guys up too much. I'm really excited to get into this interview. And I hope you guys get a gem or two because he definitely drops a bunch. So let's do this. Welcome, Joe, to Get Up 10 podcast. You see how I switched to my podcast voice for you?
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. I'm really excited to talk with you today. I hope that you are able to tap into your inner old men. Or, whoa, inner old man. I don't know why I said men. It's more than one. Wow. Hopefully, you don't have too many inner old men. But, anyways, I just want you to drop some gems on the people, some wisdom, because you definitely do that for me for sure. And so I just want to share that. And I also kind of feel like this is an exclusive because you are the one who created my awesome cover for my podcast. So I feel like this is like behind the scenes exclusive interview right now.
Dang, you make me feel super special. You make me feel like a superstar or something. It's
Yes,
just
celebrity.
I wouldn't say I'm the average Joe, but I'm just Joe. I just, do what I was called to do. That's it.
Oh, that was funny. That not the average Joe. Maybe that's the title right there.
I like that. I like that.
Okay, so we are going with the flow today. So I don't have my questions in front of me. I know you already have an idea of the questions, and so do I. But yeah, I really want to go with the flow because I feel like that goes well with your personality and stuff. Because some people they're like, oh, like let me get the email, like email the questions to me, and like let me get them ahead of time. And I don't know. I know you and I we like a little spontaneity in our lives, so just wanted to I don't know go with the flow, but also maybe I was being lazy now that I'm talking out loud. I don't know.
Look, either way, it works for me. Look, I'm always ready.
Yeah, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Anyways, yeah. So I'm gonna try to switch up my spiel a little bit. But essentially I created Get Up 10 so that people know that they can get up from whatever they might be going through in life. So with that being said, what's something that you want people to know they can get up from your life experience?
Um, Really, the same thing. Like you could get up from anything. When I look back kind of over my life of just certain things, certain scenarios, certain um things, you kind of think back like, oh, this if it was somebody else, like, it if it would have broke me or would have broke them, and you just kind of look back. I think like the hardest thing that hit me and was kind of hard to bounce back from was the passing of my dad. My dad was, he wasn't necessarily there all my life, but when he did come around and spent that time with them, those moments became like cherished moments of just like kind of playing catch up a little bit, or that's what it felt like. And then to lose someone that pretty much became your best friend that you've wanted around, and kind of losing that, first it sent me into a very very dark place, depression, everything. And to be where I'm at now, um, on the other side of everything, it was rough, it was hard, but it's possible to get up. You've got to come to a point where you're just like, I don't like feeling like this anymore. I don't like feeling this heavy. I don't like feeling this down. I don't like it at all. I don't like this feeling. So at some point, you kind of got to take a second, dust yourself off. You may have fall. You know what I'm saying? You may have some stains, or you may have a cut, bruise. But at the end of the day, your mission and your goal on earth is bigger than that. So you have to get up and keep going forward. And you never know who's necessarily watching. Um, a lot of people tell me, and I never knew this, but it was like, Joe, you have gone through a lot and you carry it very well. Because if it was me, I don't know what I would do. Um, so it's just, you never know who's watching you. The next generation, the people behind you, just like, oh, if he can get up from it, he's the average, not the average Joe, but if he can get up from it, then what's stopping me?
Yeah, exactly. And what would you say? Because that's a lot. You said a lot right there. You touched on losing your dad, being depressed, and I'm sure there's like other things that happened during that time as well that you could probably like speak to. But I think one thing that you said was you got tired of like feeling down, and I hear that. What would you say is like more tangible things that like helped you get up? Like once you decided like I'm tired of feeling like this, like what action steps did you take to get back up?
So to get back up, it it took a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it took a lot. Um, I got to the point where, um, you know, I didn't necessarily know who I was anymore. Um, like every day just felt like the same thing over and over again. Um, like days didn't felt like they just kind of like flowed together. I wasn't myself 100%. I would still let me just lay here and not. I started giving up on my purpose. Started stop designing stuff like that, and I was just laying there, just like I don't want to do any of this. And I realized, there's more to life than this. So, am I going to stay here and stay right here and kind of wallow in this pain, or am I going to live life to my fullest and kind of switch things around? Like, yeah, you lost your dad, but he's gone now. He's not necessarily suffering, but are you just going to stay in this moment and stay in this hurt, or are you going to get up and start living your life? Are you going to get up and just do whatever you can? Because that's how my dad lived his life. He lived his life doing pretty much. I think that's where I get my spontaneity from. Is from it. Well, both my parents, but I say I get the recklessness from my dad. But yeah, it was just looking back at the stuff that he did in comparison, just like, he owned clubs, he traveled the world and stuff like that. Just like, okay, is this the best way to like honor your dad's legacy of just being here and just existing, or you are you going to actually live and be able to tell something to your kids and be in your kids' life, and tell them, have them stories, give them different experiences. So at that moment I was like, okay, it's bigger than me. you know I want to be around for my kids. I want to take my kids on these experiences and everything else. So I was just like, okay, I need to get up, start taking the right steps, and kind of take it one day at a time, one step at a time. It's just like, okay, today I'm feeling better. I still miss my dad. Day 76, still miss my dad, but this is what I'm doing. And it took a lot of time. I want to say this year was the first year, or last year, I'm sorry, was the first year where the annual like date of my dad's passing, I wasn't like depressed or like down or anything, because I had one of my friends, my corner, shout out to Overland, but she helped me out, of just like every day in September, do something to honor your dad's legacy. And in that moment, for the first time in 5 years of my dad being gone, that was the one thing that helped me get through it and actually be happy. You know what I'm saying? And not just be like completely sad and just distraught and be like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm getting depressed again. It was just like, no, you're doing this to honor your dad's legacy. What would your dad want you to do? And that right there, as I said, after 5 years, 5 years is a long time. I think it's like 100,000 minutes, something like that, some change. But 5 years is a long time for it to go through every year to just be like sad around September, for it to be like, what I'm saying? That's what it says. It takes some time. It takes one step at a time, one day at a time, however you need to do it.
Yeah, I hear you. That one day at a time mentality is so important. Like I've definitely been adapting that for myself in this season of my life as well because I am the queen of big goals and dreaming big, but it really does take one day at a time. Um, and also as I was listening to you, getting my thoughts together, I just want to say when I do these interviews, I'm really trying to like listen and take notes and like, I'm working on my listening skills here. So shout out to me. um, and shout out to Overland. Yes, I miss her. I haven't talked to her in a while. Beautiful person. But you said that you did there was, like, 2 questions I had for you, but I actually wrote one down, so I'm gonna go with that one. And you said something about how you were like, day 76, like, I still miss my dad, but da 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 da. And so, is that, like, a mental check-in that you did with yourself, or, like, did you actually, like, journal or, like, keep a record somehow?
So it was more of like a mental check where it was just like, okay, um, where I would kind of just sit back for a minute and just be like, okay, how are we feeling? Like, what's going on today? And some days it would be like, okay, I kind of kept busy to keep my mind off of it. Other days where it was kind of like slow or like a relaxing day, which now that I'm thinking back at it, is I pretty much tried to make myself overactive to kind of fill that void to to get it out of my head because I would find myself working extreme hours, being active, whether like going to the gym, skateboarding, something like that, just to keep my mind off of it. Um, and I hated sitting still because I felt like those ideas, like the memories, everything kind of creep back in, and I didn't want to face it. But it was like a mental check-in where you know I would just sit there and just kind of sit back and have to force myself to be like, okay, I have to. I kind of have to face these feelings. I have to. I can't keep running away from it because if I keep running away from it, it's it's going to be that big scary monster that I don't want to deal with. And until I actually deal with it, it's just going to be terrifying to me. You know what I'm saying? Those feelings are going to be like, I don't want to deal with those. It's just like, no, you sooner or later you're going to have to deal with those, whether you want to or you don't want to, because it could come from in the form of you dealing with it or you taking it out on somebody else, you having a breakdown. So, like anytime you try to like smush something, I always give the analogy of a soda. If I try to you know what I'm saying, I put this soda is full, right? It's a Pepsi can, whatever. Uh, I shake it up, that stuff is still in there, and as soon as you open it, as soon as it cracks, it's gonna explode everywhere. So it's just like, okay, you're just suppressing, and once it explodes, now you have a huge mess to clean up. The bottle may break. It's just so many different things. But it's just like, okay, I need to open this up and just get it out. And then I can, once the soda's gone or whatever, if I want to pour more soda in, I can. But if I want to pour water in, so that way if it gets shaken up, something happens, it doesn't necessarily explode. So it's just like, okay, how can I fill myself up and not necessarily make myself when I get shaken up or um, thrown around by emotions, feelings, whatever it may be, that I don't necessarily explode or take it out on somebody else, but that I'm just like I'm calm. I can deal with it. I know how to handle it.
That's good. I love that analogy because I drink way too much soda. Okay. I love that the real reason I love that analogy is because it's practical, like, it makes sense, and I can definitely picture that, and it's real. And I would just wanna say, I have known you for several years now, and I feel like you're doing a beautiful job of honoring your father and your journey and your emotions. That's one thing that I do admire about you is that you will, like, I mean, you been on your grind lately, like, I just, I sleep, but you get up early. I don't know how. I just anybody who gets up early is just fascinating to me. But anyway, you like get up and you like hit the gym and you'll be like designing stuff for like hours and um I think at the same time it's like although you are productive and like fruitful these days, you do have your moments where you're like I'm not okay right now, but you do a really good job of like bouncing back from that, but not like running away from that or like just like like you said like just leaving it in the soda can like you pour it out and it's good, so shout out to you for that.
Thank you, thank you. It it isn't easy. A lot of guys will be like, "Oh no, I'm fine," and you know, you're not fine. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you can say you're fine, but who are you trying to say it to? Are you trying to say it to yourself, or are you trying to enforce it on somebody else to make them think that you're fine? So it's just like, okay, here's what it is. All right, this is how I'm feeling for 5 minutes. where's the solution to this? Because there's nothing in your feelings. Like when it comes down to it, you can feel however you feel, but bills don't get paid in your feelings, relationships don't get fixed in your feelings. None of those things happen. You kind of have to come out of your feelings and look at the facts as well. Just like, okay, I may feel this way, but how do we solve this? Because if I'm in my feelings, there's no solution to any problem. There's no solution at all. It's just I feel this way, and that's just what it is. Like, no, you at the end of the day, your feelings runs out, but what are we gonna solve at the end of this?
Yeah, I definitely feel like one thing that was big for me in 2020 was just mastering my feelings a little bit more and like recognizing my feelings and then being able to like feel what I'm feeling, acknowledge it, and then put it to the side and be like, okay, like you said, like what's the solution here? Because I always think of this saying about how like when emotions are high, logic is low or whatever, reasoning is low. And it's I literally see how it's so true.
Yeah.
So so I've definitely like do my best to be intentional about this is how I feel, but okay, let's be like real here. Let's think a little bit long term now and not just so in the moment of these feelings. So that's
Yeah,
good.
because if you and you're not necessarily making logical decisions when you're in your feelings as well. It's like I can, yeah, you're not making a logical because your feeling could disappear for, you know what I'm saying? Your feeling could be here one minute and then disappear the next. I can be in my feelings and yell at somebody because I felt some kind of way, but I could have said some mean stuff because I was feeling one way and I can't take that back because that I was in my feelings. I can't take that back now. I hurt somebody else's feelings. Now, you know what I'm saying? And then they may go hurt somebody else's feelings because I hurt their feelings. It's just a vicious cycle. Just like, okay, that may hurt, but I don't want to necessarily be in my feelings all the time. Like, yes, you could feel that way, but how are we going to come about this solution in the most logical way? Like, you don't want to bleed on what is it? Bleed on people you didn't intend to.
Bleed on
Like, you
people who
just
didn't cut you.
there you go. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, how many times do you act in your feelings and or you're in your feelings and then it's like over a misunderstanding and you there looking stupid. Like
Yeah.
I
Oh
was
my gosh,
feeling this
that's
way for no reason.
like you because you misunderstood something or you didn't listen because you were in your feelings, so you kind of toned them out and you just realized like, oh, I misheard that or I took that the wrong way from 30 minutes ago, and now we're an hour in this conversation. How do I get out of this? And you can't
Yeah.
because you were in your feelings. You didn't hear anything. You kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Switching gears here. Cause yeah, this whole feelings talk is not
Yeah,
for the weak.
it's not trust. Now if it was 21-year-old Joe, 22, 23, it would have been a different story. But now that I'm a little older, I think it's just, and I'm thankful for the relationships that I've had in my life between like exes, friends, family, stuff like that. They've kind of forced me to grow and realize, hey, you're getting, you know what I'm saying, you're older. It's no reason for you to stay the exact same because if you stay the exact same as you get older, it doesn't equate. It doesn't work. So it's just like, okay, you kind of have to force yourself to grow and get out of that. And if you're just like, oh, that's just who I am, you've been saying that's just who I am since you were 19 and now you're 37. Are you not going to change, or are you just going to be lazy and be the same person over year after year after year? At some point, it's just you have to change. You have to be like, all right, how can I fix myself?
Yeah, it literally is your responsibility. Like, I always think about that how when you're in school or like growing up as a child, like you don't, I don't know, like growth is just happening whether you want it to or not because of school, because of your body, like your growth spurts and like growing in so many ways, like mentally and physically and stuff. But then like when you graduate or when you get to like a certain age, if you didn't graduate, shout out to all the dropouts. It literally is your choice to grow. Like nobody is forcing you to anymore. And it's what do we say? What is Chris saying? Like growth
Child.
ain't sexy. Something like growth is not sexy. It sounds sexy, but it's not.
And the thing is, people will be like, they always say like, there's certain milestones, when you have a baby, when you have shout out to little squish, but when you
Yes.
have a baby, there's certain milestones that you check for. And even
Yeah.
as you grow and get older, what I'm saying, there's certain points where you still have to kind of have those checkpoints mentally for yourself. It may not be, going to a doctor be like, oh, they're 9 inches now and they should be able to do that. Like now you kind of have to take a mental, say check your own self and just like, okay, this is what I am, this is how old I am now. What have I learned? Or what is my next learning? What am I gonna do next? Instead of just being stagnant, because you just be stagnant, you die. Sharks have to keep swimming. Because if they stay stagnant, they die. It was the sharks or dolphins, one of the two. But you got it. I know, random facts with Joe. But you got to kind of keep going, because if you stay stagnant, you're just there, and nobody likes anything stagnant. Nobody likes anything that just sits there. A car sits there. Car, you let a car sit stagnant for months. The car, you end up having more issues than what it is. Instead of taking care of it, doing whatever you need to do, you think of it the same way. You're not growing. You're not doing anything else. If you think just because you graduate college and high school, that's it. You got that's the wrong wrong thing, because you still got a lot of growing to do. Every day is something new.
Yeah. So true. So now that we've talked about growth and feelings, which I'm glad we talked about because this is completely unscripted, but so good. That would be weird if this was scripted. But anyways,
Yeah,
now
I
I
don't
just
think I don't think anything. I'm just that spontaneous, that where I just can't script. Like you would know if it was scripted, because I'd sound like a robot.
yeah, same. I'd definitely be reading. But yeah, so the second part of my interviews, I like to talk about authenticity and like being yourself and keeping it real. And so, do you feel like that's something you have a hard time doing, or like have you gotten past that, or what are your thoughts on
So
authenticity and being yourself and all that?
so I used to, and I still have my moments where it's just like, is this really what Joe wants to do, or is this what Joe wants to see? What I'm saying, it's a weird moment, and I think it kind of goes back to the same thing of growing, of just you may have a vision, someone else may have a vision. um your friends be like, oh, like I have these expectations that I want you to live up to, or these things that I want you to do, or you're going to do this. You see, like in certain families and certain relationships, they'd be like, oh, you're going to go to school, be an engineer, you're going to go to school, be a doctor. Some parents tell their kids that when they're younger, and it's just like, okay, when you get older, it's just you run into the thing, and everyone says it, but I feel like it's still applicable, but it's still like kind of overused. But imposter syndrome, because it's just what you have to ask yourself, what do I want to do? And I had to ask myself that once I shout out. Well, no, don't shout out because they're not paying you. So I dropped out of college, but in that moment, I was going to school because my dad was like, you're gonna get your degree. You're gonna get your degree, and I was designing clothes at the time. I'm going to go to school for graphic design, and once I was there, I was like, school really isn't my thing. A formal training school wasn't really my thing. And when I dropped out 2 years in, and I went to school all year long, so I was never didn't have summer breaks or anything like that. I pretty much went to school all year long. And when I dropped out, that's where I kind of learned the most and figured out what I wanted to do the most. Is just like, okay, this is what I want to do. And, I made that promise to my dad that I would go back to school. So one of these days I will go back, to go get a degree. But in that moment, it may not have been my time for me to do that. And, me and my dad had an interesting conversation, because, he was kind of upset at me for not doing it, for not saying something like, hey, Pops, this isn't my thing. But he respected it at the end of the day, of just like, okay, that may not be for him. And even as I got older, designing and everything else, it's just like, okay, who do you want to be? Because I can. I can say I design like somebody else. I could there's already somebody else out there that designs like that. So if I'm like, oh yeah, I can design like Virgil. Virgil's already out there. He already has his own stage. He already has his own platform for being authentic and being him. Jerry Lorenzo has his own stage for the way he, makes different shapes of clothing and stuff like that. Joe Fresh, different designers and stuff. They have their own way to design. So what are you going to do that sets you apart from everybody else that you look up to? Because if you're just doing the same thing over and over, rinse and repeat, there's no longevity to that. Because once they run out of ideas, you run out of ideas. Nothing is original. You're just like, I'm gonna do this because it's cool right now, and somebody else is doing it. And it's just like, okay, once that wave runs out, what do you do? And it runs into the same thing of just like, who do you want to be? Um, do you want to be your own man and kind of figure it out, or do you want to be like somebody else that you may see on Instagram? A lot of people be like, oh, relationship goals, I want a relationship like this, but that they already have that relationship, they already have those things. So what are you going to do to cultivate your own unique relationship, um, or your own unique relationships, whether it be business relationships, platonic relationship, friendships, stuff like that? Are you going to pick up, now to say pick up some of the same habits and tendencies, cool, but to idolize somebody else's and say you want that exact thing, it's just like it's it's like heating up the same food. It's just like, someone else made this, I want the same exact thing, I'm gonna cook this same exact recipe. It's just like, no, I want a little flair to mine. I may want it a little spicy, I may want a little, add a little onion powder, garlic powder. I want it to taste different. So it's nothing wrong with necessarily following the same format, but you need to make it your own. You're your own person. You can't be somebody else. You have to be yourself. That you're here for a reason. You have to follow the plan for your life. You can't try to copy and paste somebody else's, because it's just, you're living the life of somebody else. You're not being yourself. You're not being authentic. You're just here copying somebody else, not even living your life to your fullest potential or life to anything. It's just, you're just here following somebody. And if I wanted to follow somebody, I'd just be on Twitter all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's just yeah, just yeah.
You did good. That was good. I love your analogies again. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, because like you are in the designer space and the creative space, and part of the reason, like you kind of said it, like we look up to certain people, certain designers, certain creatives, because they have established their own style. And like, and it's the same way that you would not expect to like go into the creative designer space. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but whatever. Creative or designer create, I don't know. But you don't like go into that space and just like think I'm gonna copy. I mean, it's one thing to be inspired, but you can't like just copy somebody else and expect to be successful. Like, I'm gonna bring up your favorite right now, Fashion Nova.
Oh gosh.
Just kidding, guys. Joe hates Fashion Nova.
I just the whole idea of fast fashion just does not, just it doesn't work for me. Now when I was younger, cool, but now that I'm a little older, it's just like people take the time to put together pieces, and for different brands and different companies to come together and kind of sell it, take an idea from somebody else and sell it, or just come up with stuff that they see is popular right now and there's no necessary like need for it. It's just like, oh, this person's doing it, I'm going to copy them and take it. And now you look at it, you have Fashion Nova, you have, was it Shine or Sheen, whatever it is, you have different people doing the same thing. So you're not necessarily creating your own lane. Someone else just copied and pasted whatever they were doing, and then they just did it the same thing. You're not doing anything original.
Yeah. Like two things though. It's like the more you know and as you go. So when I think about like both of those things in Fashion Nova, at first like Fashion Nova was cute because they have like all of these like cute styles and they're inexpensive, but then like I didn't really realize at first that they were just copying other people. But then when I became aware of that, it's like I would see, there was this one dress a couple weeks ago they were posting. I saw like Beyonce posted it, and then Kim Kardashian posted it, and then freaking Fashion Nova posted it, and I was like, oh, like I already know this is just a cheap version. And then in that same sense, like there was definitely as I look at my life and how I'm growing up and stuff, or maturing, however you want to say it, there was definitely a point in my life where I loved cheap clothes because I could like get a lot for a little and like have all these options and just have something for the now. But as I grew up, I got tired of cheap clothes because I'm just like, these things don't even freaking last. You wear it once, you can't even wash it. Like these shoes are all scuffed up because the material is trash. Like after a while you want the real thing and you will do what it takes or pay the price for it. So those are just some thoughts I
And
had as I
that's
was reflecting.
that's the major thing. And you touched on something that people don't, they may have just skipped over, but you pay for the authenticity. You pay the price for it. If you get something that's lesser value, you're, like you said, it may not last, it may not hold up, and we could take that into our lives. It's just like, okay, we try to take the easy way out by copying somebody else. We may, you know what I'm saying, it may not last. If I try to take the cheap way out and copy somebody else's idea word for word, bar for bar, it may not last. I may get called out and somebody be like, yo, you stole that from such and such. Boom, my career could be over. You know what I'm saying? They could be like, oh, that'll put a stain on your career of just like, oh, this person just steals stuff. If someone stole a speech from somebody else and tried to pass it as their own, just like, yo, this you're a fraud. You're lying to get people over. Like, we pay, we pay for what makes it special. And if you want to take the cheap way out, which people do, you'll end up paying for it in the long run, because it could hurt your character, it could hurt your career, it could hurt your relationship. If I stole a pickup line and from somebody else and tried to talk to somebody's daughter with it and just like, yeah, and she'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I heard that from such and such. You stole that, so you're a liar now. Like, this is what you do. You know what I'm saying? It just can ruin multiple aspects of your life. So that's why it's just that important to be authentic, just to be you. If you're corny, be that. If you are loud and brash, be that. If you are quiet, shy, and meek, be that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with adapting to certain situations, but be authentically you. Don't try to pass yourself as somebody else, because it'll get exposed. At the end of the day, it'll get exposed, and you're just hiding it until it comes to the light. No matter how hard you try, it'll come to the light sooner or later. No matter how hard you try, you can try to suppress it, try to hide it. Somebody's gonna find out. You're gonna get exposed at some point. It may not be today, tomorrow, next week. Could be next year, but sooner or later it's gonna come out.
Facts. I really hope that, I mean, I don't think I've ever had as good of a discussion on this topic as we just did, because I really want people to get more comfortable being themselves, whoever that might be, because there's just like certain things in life like that you cannot tap into or access or get to until you are in your own lane, like just being you. And so I always want to take the time to encourage people to just be yourself. So thank you for adding on to that. That was fire. I'm just gonna say that.
Anytime, anytime.
Right.
It's the old man in me. I tried to tell you, it's the old man in
The old man. That's gonna be the new drip dance,
me.
more than one. Okay, so the last couple of questions are my quote unquote fun questions. And I'm going to talk about them a little bit more than I usually do. So the first question is like, if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
So I really, 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 really want to go to Paris, France. That's where, my family's heritage is from. My dad's side is from France. I don't know the full lineage, but I definitely do have some family over there. So that is one place where I really want to go. I've been brushing up on my French,
I
um,
was gonna ask
but
you
I
that.
just want to go. I've been brushing up on it, and just the culture, the art, everything that's over there, like even Fashion Week. Shout out to Fashion Week before, COVID. But I always wanted to go and just visit, just to see the lifestyle, just to, even with me designing, I don't think I would necessarily go to Fashion Week, but I would definitely like have a show there. I don't know, unless God has a certain plan for me. But hey, France is definitely for sure where I want to travel to.
That's awesome. And I definitely thought of Jay-Z and Kanye since I won't say the title on my podcast as you were speaking. Yeah, so I asked that question because I love to travel and it's interesting to hear where people want to go. I think it gives you insight into people. So that's why I asked that question because I always want to travel. Like I want to just see the whole entire world. And the next question that I normally ask, now I gotta think about it because I forgot. All right, I'm gonna go to the one that I can remember off the top of my head, which is a book recommendation. And so like we talked about the importance of maturing and growing. And one thing that has remained the same is that successful people are readers. Readers are readers, and we ask these billionaire, millionaire guys part of their secrets to success. They always talk about reading and stuff. So I incorporated this question to again add some value. And so I like to ask my interviewees or whatever the word is for a book recommendation. And that could be something that you are currently reading right now or something that you have read in the past that was really impactful for you.
Ooh, there's a lot. Um, I think right now the one that I kind of just picked back up to revisit is the Mamba Mentality by Kobe. That one I read it the first time and I was like, okay, this is good. But you start to learn in that book, you start to learn like Kobe was amazing, but you start to learn the small details, and the details is what separated him from everybody else. Like one game, I think he said he broke his finger or sprained his finger. Went to the back room. They took an X-ray. The athletic trainer looked at it and was like, "Yeah, it's broken." He's like, "Okay, well, is there anything you can do about it?" Athletic trainer said no. He said, "Okay, well, tape it up. I'm going back out on the floor." Who does that? You know what I'm saying? Who is that wild to go back on the floor? But it's the small things like that. I never would have known that. And just to get in the same mindset of the greats of just like, okay, the small things make a huge difference. Um, Shoe Dog was another one, the Phil Knight story. I would definitely read that one just to see how he kind of came from a track athlete to building Nike, the multi-billion-dollar company with some of the greatest athletes on this earth. Um, that's two right there. And if I'm gonna do things in three, so I'm gonna recommend one more if you don't want to. What is it? I want to say Contagious, the science of why things catch on. I forgot who the author is, but that one was really good. Between those three, those are my favorites.
All right, thank you. And I'll put those in the show notes for anybody who might want to pick up one of those. And I just remembered my third question, which is about whatever song that you got on repeat right now. And this question I asked because, again, it just gives a lot of insight. Like music it tells a lot about you and who you are. And again, I love learning about the people that I'm talking to. And so I like to ask, like, is there a particular song that you got on repeat right now, or like, what's your go-to song? Well, I have an
Ooh,
idea what you're gonna say, but I don't wanna assume.
ooh, I don't know because it's like right now I'm just kind of I wouldn't say I'm in for sure a hustle mode, but it's just certain songs that I know will kind of get me in the right mindset. Like I may throw on some old Jay-Z or some Nipsey Hussle or some Kanye or um who else? It's it just depends on kind of how I'm feeling, where I want to be. One song that kind of gets me I don't know. Yeah. I may throw in like some reasonable doubt or, throwing some old Kanye. Yeah, it just depends on how I'm feeling.
That's so true. And I have seen your playlist, and I do approve of them. Yeah. So, is there any last thoughts that you want to share with the audience, or not?
Um, Really just, at the end of the day, just be yourself. Don't try to fake it, don't try to hide it because it'll get exposed. So just be yourself, be honest, work hard, and if you want it, go after it. Don't waste time, don't think like kind of looking at somebody else and be like, "Oh, they're doing it. I can't do it." It's possible. You know what I'm saying? It may take you a short amount of time, may take you a long amount of time, but if it's something that you really want to do, make that jump and just do it.
Yes, yes, yes. Thanks so much for coming through and allowing me to get in your head and give me some of your time today. I think you said a lot of really good things that I really hope the listeners uh, needed to hear. I know some things you said I definitely appreciate. So thank you.
Anytime, anytime, anytime. Thank you for having me. I'm extremely humble and extremely grateful, extremely grateful for you even having me on here. So thank you.
Oh, anytime.